Welcome to Perspectives El Paso. I'm Leon Blevins of El Paso Community College Television. Over the years of doing this program, from time to time, I've had some women on the program that I've designated as landmark ladies of El Paso. I won't rename all of those, but today I have two ladies that are landmark ladies of El Paso, and especially in the field of education and education of the deaf and hearing impaired. One of them, who started a preschool deaf program in El Paso in 1963, is with us, and her name is Lanelle Boling. Lanelle, glad you're with us today.
Thank you, Leon.
Good, good.
It's nice to be here.
And also, I know from your history, your husband, Bart Boling, former district attorney in El Paso, and you started a El Paso Democratic Women's Club.
Yes, we did.
A number of years ago, because I used to get invitations to speak to some of the meetings.
We started that in 61.
In 61. Mm-hmm. And then beside Lanelle is my wife, Shannah Blevins. We moved back to El Paso from being away for 5 years, and we came back in 1972. And she was in speech therapy. But then in 1974, she shifted over to the deaf education program and began to work with Lanelle Boling. Shannah, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much.
So how many years have you been working with her in classrooms and out in the community?
We figured it out the other day. It was 42 years.
42 years. Mm-hmm. Wow. We don't look that old, do we? That we've been doing.
No, we just feel it.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And over the years, I served as a unpaid volunteer working with them and all kinds of things. In fact, sometimes we would have deaf children living with us over a period of months, or I would work with them and we'd go to different events and take deaf children. So we're glad. Now, the reason we have you here today is not to talk so much about all of that history, but about this. The day after Donald Trump was inaugurated as President of the United States, you and some other women began to demonstrate in the streets. Planned demonstration for Washington, D.C. the date after the inauguration, and a huge number of people showed up for that, a lot more than even showed up for the inauguration ceremony. And then some of you planned to go to mini marches in state capitals and other places, including in our own town here in El Paso. But my wife, Shannah Blevins, and Lanelle Boling, they decided to drive all the way to Austin, even at their advanced age, in my wife's new car, and they went down there and they demonstrated at a women's march, the mini march. And so I made some posters for them to take and put this together. I took a picture when I was talking to Shannah the night of the march, and she said, "Look, watch television news and see if we made the news." Well, Austin did. It was on the news. It was the largest single rally in Texas history.
Right.
You were historic women. You were the historic event.
And proud of it.
And proud to be there.
And March of this year, Women's History Month, okay? And so I put together, it says there about something of it, and there's a picture here that says, "Don't mess with Texas women." So I did this poster for you. Senor Donald Trump, don't mess with Texas border women, Shannah Blevins and Lanelle Boling. Now let's talk about this. Let's start with you, Lanelle.
Well, the minute they announced that there would be a women's march that would spill over from Washington into the states, and especially Austin, we decided to go, and we got reservations immediately, and we decided that we would stay in the hotel that overlooked Congress Avenue, the main street that leads up to the Capitol in Austin. And in case the weather were bad or something, well, we wanted a room that we could look down on the street and see what was going on in case we were prohibited from joining due to our condition and the weather. But we lucked out. It was a beautiful day, and we were joined by 50,000 others of our friends, and we felt like we didn't meet a stranger, did we, Shannah?
No, not at all. And it was the nicest thing because there was such camaraderie and politeness and kindness, and people of all ages.
And well behaved, and they appreciated the fact that we were of advanced age. Well, we were surprised. We're almost celebrities because I guess we were some of the older people there. We decided, we looked out, we saw the parades, we saw them start assembling at the Capitol and saw them start to march, and they looked like to me as if they were going 37 miles an hour because I go slowly and it looks so fast.
It's hard for you to march when you have a walker.
Right. So we got, our hotel had a balcony, and it's on the corner of 7th and Congress. And so we just went out on that balcony with our signs and stood up, and we were above the parade, but the balcony's on the mezzanine, so it's not a full 2 stories up. And we held our signs and we exchanged words and greetings back and forth with the crowd, and that way we got to see everybody who marched. We could see where they were turning around to come 2 blocks up to go back to the Capitol, And many of those people came back up and got on the balcony and joined us and asked us where we were from and how old we were and had their pictures made with us.
Okay, well, show your signs then. You asked me for some signs, so I put together some signs for you, as I do for the
We wanted to be dignified according to our age, and we thought they were.
Okay,
And
Shannah,
everybody kept telling us we had such classy signs.
Right.
So
please keep America great. Don't act like Donald Trump. Thank you. So Shannah was carrying that. And that's a positive sign. It's not real hateful and mean-spirited sign.
I don't want to be hateful and mean.
And then the one Lanelle's carrying, I'm an unpaid volunteer First Amendment demonstrator, and this is the USA. Now, Donald Trump had claimed when demonstrations were breaking out that these were paid people to demonstrating against him.
Yes.
So
we never met a paid person. Everybody was there voluntarily, and it was it was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had. The friendliness, the warmth. The closest feeling I've ever had to this, and it may sound strange, was when the times that I've belonged to all women's Bible study groups, where you love each other and you feel like you're sharing the same thing. And I had that feeling at this march that we were sharing, and we were all in favor of each other. The women's rights were the main thing, order of the day, but there were climate change marchers, and there were the LGBTQ community marching, and can you think of?
Of course, there was Planned Parenthood and
Muslims.
Yes,
Yes,
there were a group of
Muslims
Muslims marching.
marching.
Yes, and so, but everybody was marching together, and it just felt wonderful.
When I can remember when you really got active in fighting for rights, you know when that was? That was back when you were working with these deaf children, and you were taking some of their families and parents to get registered with certain social programs that could assist them and help them and so on. And so you were going to Austin and testifying with regard to funding for the programs and fighting for the rights for the programs. So in that case, you were fighting for human and civil rights. You want to talk about that?
Well, at that time, there was a movement on in the United States to do a better job of educating deaf children. And we were so glad it was called to attention by the Department of Education, and we didn't want to be left behind. And other states had some things we didn't, though Texas was always fortunate enough to have a school for the deaf. But when they decided to have regional day schools for the deaf, and one was established here in El Paso to handle all 9 counties, and I opened the first preschool. And as it grew, then Shannah joined me and was also in the preschool with me. But we lacked other things. We had a preschool and an elementary, but we didn't have a junior high, a senior high, or a parent-infant program. And the public schools worked with us, and we got the junior high and the senior high. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Mr. LaForelle, who was always, he was an assistant superintendent, and the deaf school was in his area, and he was absolutely wonderful to us and was a real leader in educating handicapped children. And then when we started we wanted a birth to 3 program, that's when we testified. We were lacking in that,
and the federal law came out that said a deaf child should be educated from birth through 21. Well, that meant that we lacked the program, the birth to 3 program. And so that's when we went and testified before the Senate in order to obtain that kind of a program.
Well, eventually, the Aid for Dependent Disability people, the Disability Act was passed, and there were some people at this demonstration that were on that issue.
That's right.
Because Donald Trump in the campaign had made fun of a disabled man.
That's right. That definitely was mentioned in the march, and there were. We didn't want Texas at that time. We didn't want Texas to lag behind other states in the education of 0 to 3 children, and we testified before the legislature. And when a committee came out here, we testified, and some of the parents testified. And my husband took me to Austin, and I personally called on everybody that was on that committee. I knocked on every door and told them how drastically we needed the funding, because you know the Texas legislature is kind of famous for passing things and not funding them.
Yes.
And we wanted to make sure that it got funded, and we worked hard, and so did other teachers and parents across Texas. By then, the regional day schools were established, and we had a network with which to work.
Well, we had over different times 2 young boys that lived with us named Jorge. And it became apparent to me that sometimes people with handicaps, such as they were bullied. They were made fun of. Some of them felt ashamed that they were wearing hearing aids or covering their ears up and things like this. So discrimination, that's what you were fighting about in this rally.
And then to top it all off, we were then later asked to write the curriculum for that program.
For that age group.
And when we wrote it, it was something we were very proud of because it seems like 28 states adopted our curriculum.
Okay.
And so that was quite an honor.
Oh,
in 3 foreign countries.
That's the reason you're landmark ladies.
Well, it was the very first curriculum ever written for language development of the signing child. Mm-hmm. And I'm extremely proud of that. The state assigned us a curriculum specialist who was a professor from Yale, and he was on loan to A&M, and he met with us in Austin and guided our work. And he didn't know a thing about language development for deaf children, but he knew how curriculum was supposed to be put together, and he gave us invaluable help. And we met, and we had another colleague that wrote with us, and her name is Joan Champy. She now lives in Ohio. But we felt like we had varying enough backgrounds. My school was the University of Texas at Austin, and Shannah had gone to USC in the John Tracy Clinic, and Joan Champy was from Gallaudet, the only liberal arts college for the deaf. And we combined our talents and our efforts and came up with this curriculum that's widely used. So we're very proud of that.
Well, I mentioned the Americans with Disability Act. I had a student that was very active in fighting for that named Tom Pugh. And he's still very active with the groups here in El Paso for handicapped in wheelchairs and so on. Now, this question came up. What difference does it make to have street demonstrations about Donald Trump and all of these rights? Is this going to lead to people organizing and running for office? Did you hear discussions of that at this rally?
It was almost imperative that that was one of the things that was out there, that young people, people who still have energy, get together and run for office. But the problem is, and we all have to be conscious of this, is it takes money to run for office.
Oh, yes.
And so in order to get qualified, good people, we have to be supportive of those people.
Okay.
And another thing was mentioned about the march was it demonstrated to the people who are already elected how many people are convinced that we need to do something about these life-changing matters. If all of the threats that were made during the election are carried out, it will change lives tremendously. And I just don't think that people are ready for those kinds of changes, or that many of them.
You're talking about the changes that Donald Trump is advocating.
Absolutely.
And I think it is important that we begin to teach young people in schools, government, things that need to be relevant for their lives. We have too many people that are so caught up in social media and all of that they forget that there is a world outside of there that needs them.
Yeah, well, right now I'm reading a book called Amusing Ourselves to Death, written by a professor at Columbia University years ago. And he talked about this thing. We're so wrapped up in all of our entertainment, sports entertainment, all kinds of Hollywood entertainment, television, that we're not paying attention to what people can do to us with public policy. Just recently, a lot of people have been storming, most of them peacefully, their legislative officers, state and federal officers.
We've done that too.
Yeah, you've done that?
We went to the Blue Ribbon Women's March too.
We're the only two ladies from El Paso who went to the Blue Ribbon March in Texas. And
explain that. What's Blue Ribbon Women?
That's trying to turn Texas blue and to get the attention of the legislators that there are an awful lot of us out there that don't think in real conservative ways, that we have to have a dash of liberalism now and then to keep this place going and to help people who can't speak up for themselves.
Okay. So what reaction did you get from those people? Are they actually having workshops and training sessions to help people to raise money and get elected?
They were trying to go every 2 years. Yes, they are.
Yes, they are, and they were going every 2 years to the Capitol, and we managed, among all of us, to call on every legislator and every senator in that building to spread our word.
Okay.
And
now, we're
they
very
were
fortunate
overwhelmed.
here because El Paso has some really good senators
Legislators?
and legislators, yes.
Okay.
And they tell us to complain to our congressman, and I don't have anything to
Complain
complain
about
congressman.
to my
I think
congressman.
Beto's wonderful.
Well,
And
Beto O'Rourke is our congressman. He's a Democrat. Now, I need to make
Now,
a little
we
note
need
here.
some new senators, but other than
Now, I
that,
need a note here. In the past, when I've done programs that were very political, I interviewed someone who went to a National Democratic Party convention, and in the next program I did someone who went to Republican convention, or I interviewed the head of the Democratic Party in the county, a Republican, to balance these things off, even on downtown restoration, which direction it should go, facades or tearing down buildings and building new stuff. In this case, I suppose I need to say this, that since you're talking about Democratic Party programs and opposition, we're not refighting the election. That's
no,
passed.
no,
okay?
No.
that's over and
But
done
how
with.
Donald Trump acts, the words he used, proposals he's putting in place now, and all of this, that if there's two women out there, you're upset over this discussion and you think we're being too liberal on this, you use the word liberal, then contact me through the community college television program, and I'll have you sit in the same place and you explain why you support the way Donald Trump acts with regard to women, with regard to Muslims, with regard to Mexicans, and any of these other things, and the handicapped. And we'll give you a chance. There's no required fair treatment doctrine with television anymore, but I'm a fair person, and I will give you a chance to explain why you support Donald Trump.
may I just add to one of the best things that I saw while I was there? There were two young mothers from Fort Worth.
That's what I was going to mention.
And with them, they had two little girls, around 7 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
And they had those little girls out there, and the little girls had made signs. One of them said, "Do not mess with Texas women."
Mm-hmm.
The other one said, I don't remember what the other sign had on it, but it was something very positive. And those young mothers would say to those little girls, "What is democracy?" And those little bitty girls would holler out to the crowd and got a chant started from the crowd, "This is what democracy looks like."
They wanted their pictures made with us. They wanted to show the age gap.
Age
Oh,
differences.
the young kids and the older ladies.
And
Fighting for the same thing. And I thought to myself, why am I still protesting for this? At age 84, why do I still have to ask for equal rights? When my husband became a lawyer, women couldn't even serve on the jury. Well, we finally got to do that, but we're still so far behind.
With regard to equal pay for equal
Oh,
work.
yes,
things
and
like
that was what the march was about.
That's what it was about, was women's rights are human rights. And there were a lot of signs that said so, and there were a lot of men upholding that. And that one man had a sign that said, "Men of quality believe in equality."
Oh, that's good.
And then there was a humorous one that said, what did he say about?
Said, "I don't tell my wife what to do, why should you?"
So there were lots of men in that march that, supporting us. But it's true, it's taken us too long. When we got the vote in 1920, we couldn't even serve on juries in 1954, and now we're still asking, please. And they asked us why we were there, and Shannah said because she had 5 granddaughters.
5 granddaughters.
And I have 6, and we don't want them to have to do this.
Well, there's some had signs that saying, "Keep your hand off my body."
Oh, that's for sure.
Well,
Worse than
there
that.
were a lot of, but there were very few ugly signs.
That's true, but there were some.
Yeah.
But there's some crude people, as long as the man that had the equality. I thought that was just one of the tops. And there were a lot of funny signs, and there were just a lot of signs at both gatherings. There was one that I hope this isn't out of order, but I thought it was really comical and it was clever. It said, "George Washington said, 'I cannot tell a lie,' and Richard Nixon said, 'I cannot tell the truth.' And Donald Trump said, I cannot tell the difference.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, there's still demonstrations, and they're going to go on for years. As long as Donald Trump is president of the United States, there will be demonstrations going.
You can't bully people.
But you know, it's important to remember that that's a First Amendment right. The
Right.
right to assembly, the right to a free press, the right for freedom of religion.
Speech.
Well, just this
Freedom
last
of
week,
speech.
Mr. Bannon, who is his
just-
chief political advisor, told the media just to quiet,
Shut
get
up
quiet,
is
shut
what
up,
he said. He said, shut up.
shut up. Well, the media's not going to shut up.
And I'm tired.
hope.
No, and I'm tired of the media pussyfooting around and not saying a lie is a lie.
Oh, okay.
If you're going to deal it, you have to be willing to stand behind it, and you have to recognize it for what it is. And I think there's two things that are essential, and they were brought forth in this march, and they made a big impact. And that is, you have to call a lie, and you have to demonstrate.
Okay.
And that's within our rights. And it's a blessing to have that kind of freedom in this country. And I was never made more aware of it, and that there were so many like-minded people.
Well, I was going to ask you, what did you take away from this going down there? I think you just stated it without me asking that question. That's what it really is all about.
And if the people, the elected officials, aren't blind, they saw it and they could feel the impact of that.
Well, you know, words matter. We keep hearing words matter. And we know that Donald Trump is a tweeting president. He sends out little short statements about all kinds of policy positions with no filters in there, going out to millions of people. And he's saying words that cause other people to be afraid to act because he can do tweets that will damage them, their professional lives, their political lives, and everything, economic factors. So I don't know. This is important. But we have to look at a wide range of things and how we will deal with this. He's a very different president. There's no doubt about that.
There's no doubt. And if there's something that's being done that you don't believe in, speak up. That's your right.
I think that's part of our problem, is that too many of us have tried to be polite, almost intimidated, and we haven't spoken up.
Well, did some people say to you things like, why are you demonstrating against the president? You're not supposed to demonstrate against
No
the
one ever
president.
said that.
Even back when Nixon was in trouble, Dan Rather and Sam Donaldson from the El Paso area, they were not attacking the presidency.
No.
They were attacking a bad president. And so this is kind of what this is about. It's saying, Donald Trump, this is not right. Your words matter. Your demeaning techniques that you use to get into office matter. And it's not the presidency.
Use
Now,
a little
I feel
diplomacy.
I have to say this. I feel sorry for Donald Trump.
Okay.
I think we need to pray for our leaders. And I think he needs a little extra help, because he's doing things that, I mean, the Mexican border, they have always been our friends.
Right.
They have always been an ally. I don't want a wall built along the border,
Love thy neighbor, and they are our neighbors.
and they are our neighbors.
And they speak about us from other places as being a very unruly criminal element along the border. And yet, Beto O'Rourke and others keep reminding them, we're listed as one of the safest cities in the United States.
That's right. And I'm willing to line up with people on the border with my body. If the troops try to go in, I think that we got to stop it.
Well, Donald
On
Trump
this
said we
side.
need to go send military troops into Mexico to deal with bad hombres. There again, he's using words that relate to Mexico and the Spanish language.
Well, he's already insulted them enough.
You have friends here in El Paso that are discussing this a lot? I know you're in your social circles, or are they just being quiet, afraid you'll get in trouble if you start criticizing Donald Trump?
I have friends on both sides.
I do too.
I have friends on both
I
sides.
have relatives on both sides.
Me too.
Okay. So at Thanksgiving, nobody talked politics
That's
around
right.
the turkey.
That's right.
Or Christmas either.
Okay.
Depends on which faction of the family you're with. And they're entitled to their opinions, but I cannot buy rudeness, running roughshod over people, and like I said, I didn't vote for him because I don't volunteer to be bullied.
Okay. And we've seen bullies and what it does. You know, I've discussed this in another program fairly recently about bullying and hate speech and mean-spirited speech, and sometimes it leads people to commit suicide.
That's right.
In some cases, it leads to wars. Wars have been started over little pieces of land And wars have been started over insults, feeling that someone has insulted us.
Ridiculous.
And whereas some people try to deal with those diplomatically and with courtesy, others are bellicose and they say, if you diss me, I will kill you. That's the danger that we get into with the words. Last words. We have only a few minutes left. It's your program. What would you like to say about your trip to Austin that we missed?
I think we've covered it pretty much in totality.
Okay, okay.
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Okay, if you were going to go back for another march, would you do anything different? Would you take
More signs,
more signs?
so that every so often I could switch, or I could line that balcony with
But
them.
I want them to be classy,
Yes.
and I want them to be not mean-spirited.
And I don't want any alternative facts.
And that's true.
No
I
alternative facts.
really don't want alternative facts.
You're saying that because one of his advisors, one of his campaign managers, used that phrase recently, and the newsman that was interviewing her, he said, alternative facts are lies.
That's right.
There's no such thing as alternative
No.
fact.
Keep it light, keep it
And I
classy,
want-
and keep it light.
I want people to understand that we are American, that we are patriotic.
Okay, there's something else I think we want them to understand, and the invitation I gave a while ago. Some of our friends are strong supporters of Donald Trump. That doesn't mean that they are rapists and they're murderers and some of these words that he has used, demeaning words. That yes, some of the people we work with and we associate with and family members are still good people. But some of them listen to Donald Trump about jobs, going to bring back jobs to the United States and put people back to work and all of these things he's going to do. And so we still need to keep those open doors, even though we may defriend them from our Facebook page or something.
Believe me, I hope he's successful. It's be for the good of the country, but I don't like his attitude while he's doing it.
The way that he does things, yeah. Okay. Well, we can agree on that.
I'm pulling for him.
And we hope for a successful America, that we will come through this period of time. We've come through worse. We've come through a civil war. We've come through a Great Depression. We came through a fairly almost Great Depression again recently. And we can pull through, and even here, maybe some of the advisors he's putting around himself as president can help him get on a better track. This is being discussed a lot now, that some of the people that he put in place as Secretary of State, as head of the Pentagon, the military and so on, can help him track some of his language and words without causing
We
us
need
to
a little more dignity and a little more decency.
act presidential. Okay, those of you that are watching, we find another, wow, fascinating program of all things, and watch again and see what we do and who we interview on Perspectives El Paso. I'm Leon Blevins. Thanks for watching.